who's got jurisdiction, and is there anything that the city can do about it?
Okay, so yes, the city has the jurisdiction for it, and there is something we can do about it. So essentially a public complaint came to us in the last week during the rains that this barge had floated down and occupied the spot. So the canals themselves are managed by Bureau of Street Services, and it's considered a thoroughfare just like a street or any other public access way. So they have jurisdiction and domain over that.
Try to stay focused on us.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
just
sorry.
so we
And with regards to enforcement action, so street services, something of that size is considered blocking the thoroughfare, in which case it then goes to the sanitation to remove any obstacle that could be there. What complicates that is a division of sanitation watershed. This waterway flows out to the ocean, so there are concerns as to whether or not there's any illegal dumping, whether that's human sewage, whether it's gasoline or oil from the generator, anything like that could pollute the ocean. The watershed would have the ultimate jurisdiction, and that would be an immediate removal. The other concern that we have is whose barge is that? So if that is stolen property that someone is now occupied and taking control of, if that victim were to come forward, then we would step in to recover that property for that victim and would remove the existing property that's on it. So right now, from the city standpoint, we're working collectively with our agencies to determine what is the best way to bring resolution to it, to open up the thoroughfare of the canal and remove the blockage that the barge is creating.
So who's going to make the final say on this, and what kind of time frame are you looking at?
So right now, Bureau of Street Services has already been out. They've assessed it. They gave us their opinion that it's blocking the canal. We're waiting for Watershed to come out. We sent pictures to both sanitation and Watershed, and Watershed wants to come out to see if it's an environmental hazard. And if they do, they'll automatically place things in the motion to remove that hazard from the waterway.
Would it be illegal if that woman is living on it? Would that be against the ordinances, or?
Well, there's a lot of issues there. So in terms of it being illegal, one is if she doesn't own the barge, then yeah, you got a trespass issue or even a stolen property issue. So we have to address that. So the mere fact that she's there, that's illegal. Yeah, because you can't just take up residence on someone's private property.
Now she claims she made that barge out of salvaged wood.
So that's something we'll have to assess. If that's in fact the case and it's her property, then I'll default back to the other position that is it's blocking a thoroughfare. And it'd be no different that if you took that structure and you placed it in the middle of a public street, then we'd have the same thing where we have something blocking the thoroughfare and we have to remove it.
So let me get this straight. So what you're saying is what might elevate the issue is whether or not it's determined that this is somehow a danger to wildlife in the ocean or whatever. Is that what you're saying? That perhaps a resolution would come that much faster with that extra?
Correct. If it's determined that there's an environmental issue, that basically trumps everything. Because right now it's less of a law enforcement issue than it is Bureau of Street Services or sanitation to determine whether it's an environmental hazard. So they would have the ultimate authority to resolve it quickly.
And they might have their own calendar on what that means. A week, 2 weeks, 1 day, 1 hour.
Correct.
They would decide.
So Watershed has told us they will be out either tonight or tomorrow morning to assess it. And once they give us their assessment, then we'll decide.
And what's the official name of the watershed?
So
is it the district?
I don't know.
Okay.
So Bureau of Sanitation has different divisions within it. They've got a watershed division that manages all waterways. So just like the LA River over in Los Feliz area, where you see a lot of people kayaking and stuff, they would control that because that drains into the oceans, and so there's environmental issues there.
You understand the concerns that the neighbors have about a homeless encampment cropping up, first on the banks of the canals, now maybe in the canal. How do you guys deal with that?
So we deal with it the same. We deal with all homeless issues. First of all, if there is a violation of law, then we take appropriate action. The city has different policies and protocols into how we do that, how we remove people from areas if it's creating a public hazard. So we look, is it creating a public hazard? Is it blocking a thoroughfare walkway? what's the impact to the community, and then it's our efforts to try to resolve that issue to the best we can. At the same time, we have to be sensitive to the humanitarian side of being homeless is not a crime in and of itself. So how do we deal with the humanitarian issue? And that goes to whether or not we have alternate housing to offer them or services to get them off the streets or out of the situation.
And is there?
There is. So we'll work through the different companies we can contract with, LA Housing, and we've got different services available to us.
It's hard to offer housing to someone who says this is a choice. This is the way I want to live.
And that's the current crisis that we're in the city is, does somebody want to avail themselves of services and look at something alternate, or do they want to stay where they're at? And so we have to deal with those on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, sorry. We're having problems with our camera, so it sometimes cuts out in the middle. So if you could summarize for us, sort of what are the issues that are kind of still at play here? You mentioned, jurisdiction, whether it's an environmental hazard or whether it's blocking a thoroughfare. Could you summarize those for us?
So okay.
Yeah.
So the summary of all the issues that are on the table. One is it's a thoroughfare, so public access to any thoroughfare and other vehicles to be able to get by. So that's the first one. The other one is, do we have stolen property? Did that barge belong to somebody else, in which case law enforcement becomes involved immediately to recover the property. We have an obligation, but we don't have an identified victim at this time. The next issue